Hi, everybody. This is Crystal Proxmire of Oakland County Times. We're here today with Stacey McDuffie, who is running for state representative in the 51st district. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much for being here. Can you just tell us why you decided to run?
Well, I feel like before running for office, I am a regular person. I'm a person who lives in this community. I'm a voter. And the one thing that I am is tired. I'm tired of feeling like the people who represent us don't listen. Headlines are more important than actual things that are happening in our life. And I said to myself, we have two choices. You can either sit by and continue to accept things how they are, or you can throw your hat in the race. You can do something about it. So that's exactly what I'm doing.
What are some of those things that you'd like to work on if you're elected?
One thing, the first thing for me is education. I have two girls. They're 8 and 11. They'll be going into the fourth grade and the seventh grade next year. And I know from, an education perspective at the state level, a lot of times you deal with unions, you deal with administrators, that type of thing. But what I'd really like to see is more actual teacher involvement. Teachers are the ones who are there on the ground. They know what's happening. They know how kids are coming to school prepared to learn. They see the different dynamics. They're the ones who are the in state of how programs are implemented, if they're working, if they're actually something that are beneficial to their kids. So I feel like we really need to kind of look at how we're educating ourselves about education at the state level and kind of figure out better people that we can include. Not better, but we have to include teachers. It's important. Another thing here that is really important to me is insurance here in Michigan. My husband spent 20 years in the military. We've lived all over this country, from Washington State to Virginia, Texas, and everywhere in between. And Michigan is the highest auto insurance of anywhere that we've ever been. And I know that we have, catastrophic claim coverage and, many other things that are supposed to give insured people more confidence if something happens. However, it's interesting, we're paying all of these premiums, but if you talk to people who have had accidents, 15 years ago, and they're a part of catastrophic claims, you'll start to find that a lot of them are having a hard time finding coverage, finding providers. A lot of people, because of how insurances are billing, they're having to, fold. And then you have families who are scrambling, trying to figure out how people are going to survive. So, and then third, we're a military family. So veteran issues here in the state are very important to me. Veterans are some of the most dedicated people in our society. And I feel like here in Michigan, we have a very special opportunity to be able to rework things where we're attracting those people back here once their service is complete. So yeah, those are my big three.
So, can you tell us a bit about your professional experience and some of the skills you bring to the table?
Well, my professional experience actually started in Major League Sports. I started with the Detroit Pistons, and then from there, I moved to San Francisco, worked for the Giants for a couple years, and then I ended up getting a position with the NBA. They were different leadership roles where we dealt with a lot of, sales, marketing, that type of thing. And the one thing that was always important to me in any leadership capacity that I've ever had is to be relatable. You can't lead people if you don't understand what they're going through. I married a military guy, so Fort wherever isn't always in a major sports market. So I transitioned to the DoD space. I worked a DoD job for a little while, and then eventually I was hired by Lockheed Martin. I worked at Cheyenne Mountain Air Force Station, home in NORAD. So in support of national defense type activities. And, we did that, or I did that for a long time until, I got to a point where I needed to add something different to my life. Moving a lot in the military, you realize very quickly how the real estate market isn't always very forgiving. We have 10 days to get to where we have to get to, and you figure out where you're going to live because the mission keeps going. And I never felt that anyone ever listened to me or to us with the things that we wanted to do. So I told my husband when we were done moving every 2 years, I was going to do something about that too. So for the last 8 years, I've gotten involved in real estate, both residential and commercial here in Michigan. And that's given me a really special opportunity to see what's affecting people. When you sit down at a kitchen table when somebody's trying to figure out how to buy a home, they're looking at things like insurance, they're looking at schools, they're looking at affordability, they're looking at how do we become homeowners and still be able to stay afloat. So all of those things combined, I feel like gives me a very unique perspective. From leadership, I've been in a lot of different environments with people who don't always think the ways that I do. But I've always figured out a path forward where we can be collaborative and cohesive and figure out how to be a team. And then in real estate, I've really been able to connect with people both locally here, and then kind of compare some of our military people moving experience all over the place and help people have a smoother transition.
What are some ways that you've been involved in the community?
Well, I have two girls, so I stay involved in something all the time, whether it's their schools, they both play sports. So, I work a lot with, coaching, supporting, that type of thing. I get involved with a lot of veteran issues here in the state of Michigan. That's something that's very near and dear to our heart. Military people have a pride about them. And what happens is when they have problems or issues, they're very quick to shut down. Asking for help isn't something easy. So I always try to make myself a person who is available, who understands that shared experience with them and helps them to connect things, to help things work better for them. In addition to that, I've always been coined in my friend groups as the accidental activist. So, I'm the person that people call when they don't know who to call and how to figure things out. So, I found myself dealing with school issues, equity, those types of things. So, yeah, I keep myself busy.
So in this race, there is some competition in the primary as well as in November. Why should the voters pick you?
Well, I feel like, let's handle the primary first. The other gentleman that I'm running against, he seems like a wonderful guy. But I just feel like District 51 needs something a little different. We need someone with energy, with tenacity, who has a proven track record of changing things here in the state, from the outside of government, and figuring out a way to change things on the inside as well. I'm a mother, a wife, I'm a small business owner. I'm active in the community. So I have a very distinct feeling of what other people are going through. And it's frustrating. It's every decision that we make now are the decisions that are going to affect our children later. What we do today is going to affect them. So my vested interest is in making sure that all of our children, and our District 51 as a whole has someone who's going to advocate for them, someone who's going to be passionate about the things that they're passionate about, and who's going to fight. If I don't want to fight, but if a fight needs to be had, I'm your girl. So, and then hopefully I get past the primaries and then into the general. The current person holding the seat cares more about headlines than he cares about realistic issues. It's almost like this position has been turned into reality TV, and that's not fair. Our voters have real issues here in District 51, and the people who voted for him deserve somebody who, at minimum, is going to answer the phone, who's going to respond, who's going to be someone that they can reach out to that's going to advocate for them, not just somebody who's going to hold a seat because they feel that they're entitled to it and do absolutely nothing. So, that's a whole different thing. Right now I'm focused on the primary. So, we'll see how this goes.
So if voters want more information about you and your campaign, where can they go?
Well, they can go to stacymcduffie.com. They can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, started a TikTok. There's only a couple of things there. But the best place to find me is on Facebook or stacymcduffie.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk with us today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.